The galaxy had long forgotten Earth. To most alien empires, it was just another blue dot drifting in the empty darkness, quiet and harmless. For centuries, humans had kept to themselves, building their civilizations slowly, silently, and without drawing attention. Other species laughed at them. They called humans fragile, weak, and insignificant. They said Earth could never defend itself, could never matter in galactic politics. And for a long time, humans had stayed silent, pretending to be exactly what the galaxy expected, small, peaceful, and harmless. But beneath that quiet surface, humanity was never weak. Hidden beneath oceans and deserts, in secret bunkers and underground factories, humans had been preparing. They had studied alien technology, copied it, improved it, and in many ways surpassed it. Every engine, every shield, every weapon had been tested in secrecy. For centuries, humans waited, learning, growing, and strengthening, all the while listening to the whispers of the galaxy mocking them. On the surface, Earth seemed ordinary. Cities bustled with everyday life. Children ran in playgrounds. Workers hurried through streets, and politicians debated endlessly. But beneath this calm, something extraordinary was happening. Humans were building not just ships, but hope, determination, and the kind of courage that could change the universe. Captain Leora Kane stood on the observation deck of the Aurora's Edge, one of the first of humanity's giant motherships. Her hands rested on the railing, and her eyes scanned the black emptiness beyond Earth's orbit. The stars twinkled in the distance, innocent and silent, but they were about to witness something no galaxy had ever seen before. She thought about the countless humans who had worked tirelessly for this day. Engineers who never slept, scientists who risked everything to invent new weapons, and soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a fight no one had thought would ever come. They had waited for centuries to show the galaxy what humanity could do. The silence of Earth had been deliberate. Every alien species assumed that silence meant weakness. Every empire believed that humans were harmless and small. But Leora knew the truth. Humans were patient. Humans were clever. Humans were dangerous in ways that others could not even imagine. The galaxy had underestimated them, and that underestimation would be their undoing. In the massive hangars beneath the mountains, the motherships stirred to life. Their engines hummed with a sound that was almost alive. It was a sound that promised power, speed, and unstoppable force. Thousands of smaller ships flitted like shadows among the larger vessels, preparing for the first journey beyond Earth. Engineers checked systems, soldiers ran final drills, and commanders coordinated fleets, in a silent dance of precision and readiness. No human complained about the years of secrecy or the hardships endured. They had waited for this moment. They had trained for this moment, and they would not fail. The galaxy had a name for this kind of silence. They called it weakness. But Leora knew that it was not weakness at all. Silence was strategy. Silence was patience. Silence was the calm before a storm so immense that the universe itself would tremble. She had read ancient texts, alien histories, and human records. All pointed to one truth. The strongest force is often the one that appears quiet, harmless, and invisible. Humans were that force. As Leora looked back at Earth from orbit, she felt a surge of pride. The cities below looked peaceful, unaware of the ships rising above them. People went about their lives, oblivious to the dawn of a new era. Parents held their children's hands, not knowing that their children would inherit a universe that would soon respect and fear Earth. Scientists peered through telescopes, dreaming of stars, not knowing that their planet would soon blaze across the galaxy. Soldiers trained in simulation rooms, unaware that their discipline and courage would soon be tested on a cosmic scale. Leora remembered the stories of alien fleets laughing at Earth. She remembered their smug messages, their condescending warnings, and the countless times humans were dismissed as unworthy. Every word of mockery had been stored in memory, every insult noted, every slight remembered. The galaxy had no idea that the quiet humans were not fragile at all. They were relentless, they were strong, they were unstoppable. And they had been, preparing in secret, for centuries, to change everything. The first human mothership rose into orbit like a silent guardian, its shadow stretching across the planet like a promise. It gleamed with energy, bristling with weapons that no alien mind had seen before. Smaller ships followed, thousands of them, weaving patterns of perfection in the vacuum of space. Humanity had not just built ships, they had built a symbol of patience, intelligence, courage, and unity. A symbol that would announce to the galaxy that humans were awake. And then, just as the sun began to rise over Earth, Leora whispered to herself, "The galaxy thinks we are silent. They think we are weak. But they have no idea what is coming. They will remember this day forever." The silence of Earth ended that morning, and though no alien fleet yet knew it, a new sound had begun. A sound of engines awakening, of weapons primed, of a people ready to rise. Humanity was no longer quiet. Humanity was no longer small. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that patience, courage, and unity can build a force that no one can ignore. The stars waited. The galaxy watched. And Earth, for the first time in history, held its breath before the storm. The sun rose over Earth, casting golden light on cities, mountains, oceans, and deserts. To anyone looking from the surface, the planet seemed calm, ordinary, unchanged. But above, in the silent reaches of orbit, the truth was far different. Humanity was no longer the quiet, fragile species the galaxy had underestimated. The motherships were awake, engines humming with power that no alien had ever witnessed, and they were ready to leave. On the command bridge of the Aurora's Edge, Captain Leora Kane stood at attention, her eyes scanning the vast darkness beyond Earth's atmosphere. The first fleet of humanity's greatest ships had gathered, stretching, across kilometers of space, shimmering with energy and bristling with weapons. Smaller fighter crafts moved in precise formations around the motherships, as if rehearsing a dance that only humans could perform. Every ship, every system, every soldier was part of a plan centuries in the making. Around her, officers and crew moved with quiet purpose. The engineers monitored energy levels, the communications officers ran final checks, and the navigators plotted courses that would take them across the stars and into the heart of alien territories. The hum of machinery was like a heartbeat, the heartbeat of a species that had waited too long to be seen, too long to be understood. Humanity had not simply built ships. Humanity had built a legacy. Every citizen on Earth, every person who had worked in secret factories or research stations, every soldier who had trained endlessly was now part of something bigger than themselves. They were part of a force that would announce to the galaxy, humans were no longer to be dismissed, laughed at, or ignored. They were a storm, a tide that would sweep across the stars. Below in Earth's capitals, the final preparations were underway. People were not aware of everything happening in orbit. Parents hugged their children, unaware that the next time they saw the sky, it would be filled with the shadows of human motherships. Engineers and scientists still moved among their labs and factories, feeling only a quiet satisfaction as systems came online. Soldiers tightened their grips on training simulators, hearts racing, not fully understanding that they were about to step into history. But Leora knew. Everyone aboard the fleet knew. This was not just a mission. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for across centuries. The first launch sequence began in the lower docks. The smaller fighters streaked into orbit, engines blazing with blue fire, leaving streaks of light that seemed almost alive. The humans in orbit did not cheer, but they felt the energy. They felt the power of centuries of planning, of inventions, of dreams and sacrifices. Each ship, whether a fighter, destroyer, or giant mothership, carried the hopes of every human who had ever been told they were fragile. For the galaxy, Earth had been a footnote, a quiet planet that posed no threat. The alien empires had sent patrols, studied the planet, and laughed at the small signals of intelligence they could detect. But none of them had seen this. None of them had imagined the scale of humanity's preparation, the brilliance of human engineering, or the unity of a species that had finally decided to rise. As the fleet aligned for departure, Leora's mind flashed back to the stories she had heard as a child, stories of alien conquerors mocking Earth, stories of humans dismissed as weak, fragile, or unworthy. Those voices had echoed for generations, shaping the determination of her people. Humanity had not forgotten. Humanity had used the mockery as fuel, turning insult into innovation, derision into discipline. Every human aboard the fleet carried that memory like armor, and now it was time to show the galaxy what that armor could do. The motherships themselves were immense, floating giants that seemed almost alive. They gleamed with energy weapons, shields, and engines that pulsed like hearts. Their sheer size darkened the skies above Earth as they prepared to depart. Leora could feel the hum beneath her feet, the vibration of power that made even the strongest structures tremble slightly. The galaxy had never seen anything like it, and soon every alien empire would. The galaxy had never truly noticed Earth. For centuries, humans were a quiet, unnoticed species, tucked away in a small corner of the cosmos. The empires beyond the stars had laughed at the reports. Weak humans, fragile and harmless. Patrols were sent occasionally to observe, to confirm what everyone already believed. Earth posed no threat. But now the silence was broken, and the galaxy was about to wake to a reality it could never ignore. In the outer systems of the Vrylan Empire, the first signs of humanity's awakening appeared. Alien sensors detected enormous objects moving beyond the outer patrol lines. At first, analysts thought they were anomalies, comets, rogue planets, or strange energy disturbances. But soon, the objects split into thousands of smaller ships, all moving with precision, intelligence, and a terrifying sense of purpose. The first reports reached the Vrylan High Command. Officers stared at the screens in disbelief. It's Earth," one whispered, his voice trembling. "They're armed. They're coming." The room erupted in chaos. Messages flew, alarms sounded, and fleets were scrambled. But disbelief was stronger than fear. How could humans, a species they had long dismissed, produce such technology? How could they mobilize such a fleet without detection? The answers did not matter yet, only the reality that Earth's silence had ended. Back aboard the Aurora's Edge, Captain Leora Kane watched the stars through the observation deck. The first reports from distant systems reached them via deep space relays. Leora did not smile. She had expected fear, but she had also expected confusion. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. Now, it would learn its lesson. The fleet moved like a single organism. Motherships glided silently through the void, with smaller ships weaving in intricate formations around them. Energy pulses lit the edges of shields, engines hummed with barely contained power, and weapons systems were ready. Every human aboard carried the weight of history. Every soldier the memory of centuries of mockery, every engineer the proof of human genius. This was more than war preparation. It was a declaration of existence. In the distant systems, alien communications scrambled. The word spread quickly. "It's Earth. They are moving. Prepare defenses." Panic erupted in colonies that had never known it before. Entire planets emptied, and fleets assembled in desperate attempts to understand the threat. But the humans were already too far advanced. The Vrylan fleets, trained for centuries to fight other alien species, were suddenly facing a species they had underestimated, and that underestimation was deadly. The humans did not attack immediately. Instead, they moved strategically, like predators circling their prey. Each ship that passed an alien patrol scanned, observed, and recorded. Every engagement was precise, designed not to destroy but to demonstrate capability. The galaxy had laughed at humanity for centuries, but laughter would soon be replaced with fear. In one command center of a distant colony, Admiral Trelka stared at the readouts, his antennae twitching in disbelief. They are not fragile, he said. They are unstoppable. But even as he spoke, the first small engagements began. Human destroyers darted like shadows through enemy lines, striking vital points before vanishing again. Entire patrols were disabled with minimal loss of life, just enough to send a message. Humanity did not need to kill to command attention. They only needed to show power. On Earth, people went about their lives unaware of the shockwaves moving through the galaxy. Cities bustled, children played, and the sun shone across oceans and deserts. But aboard the fleet, every human felt it. The tension, the anticipation, the weight of a responsibility older than anyone alive. Humanity had waited for this moment for centuries, and it would not falter. Leora's gaze swept across the bridge. Every officer, every crew member knew what was at stake. "This is not just about survival," she said softly, her voice carrying through the comms. "This is about respect. This is about proving that humanity is not fragile. The galaxy has doubted us for too long. Now they will see the truth." In the distant reaches of space, alien fleets moved with growing fear. They had never faced humans before. Their sensors, designed to detect threats, recorded a fleet unlike any they had ever imagined. Motherships that could dwarf small planets. Fighters that could outmaneuver their most advanced cruisers. Weapons that shimmered with energy unseen in any alien system. The galaxy had assumed that silence meant weakness. It had been wrong. The first human encounters were brief but unforgettable. Patrols were intercepted and disabled. Alien commanders received clear messages. Earth was no longer passive. Humanity had arrived. And they had arrived with purpose, precision, and power. Leora stood on the observation deck, her hands resting on the railing, staring into the darkness. "They think silence is weakness," she whispered, "but patience is strength. And we have been patient for centuries." Around her, the fleet moved in perfect coordination, engines humming, shields glowing, weapons primed. Every human aboard felt a surge of pride. They were no longer small, no longer ignored, no longer underestimated. They were the storm the galaxy had never seen coming. And in the Vrylan Empire, and across other alien territories, fear began to take root. It was not just fear of destruction, it was fear of the unknown, fear of a species that had waited quietly, growing stronger until it was ready to rise. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was no longer a footnote. Humanity was awake. The first warning had been delivered. The galaxy had been reminded that even the quietest species could hold unimaginable power. And as the fleet moved closer to alien space, every human knew one thing clearly. The universe would never look at Earth the same way again. The silence of centuries had ended. The call of humanity had begun. And soon the galaxy would learn what it truly meant to face a species that had been underestimated for far too long. The stars stretched endlessly before the fleet, shining like distant jewels against the black velvet of space. Humanity's ships moved with purpose, engines blazing, shields humming, and weapons systems ready. Every ship, from the smallest fighter to the largest mothership, was part of a single, unified force, a force that had been centuries in preparation. The galaxy had laughed at Earth for so long. Now the galaxy would tremble. Captain Leora Kane stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, her eyes fixed on the instruments that displayed alien systems ahead. The Vrylan fleets were assembling, alerted by the earlier warnings, but the humans had anticipated this. Every movement of their enemies had been calculated, every patrol predicted, every defensive formation studied. Humanity had waited, quietly and patiently, for this very moment. And now they were ready to strike, not with chaos, but with precision, intelligence, and undeniable power. The first skirmishes began as the fleet entered the outer edges of the Vrylan capital system. Human destroyers, small and fast, darted through alien formations like shadows, striking at vulnerable points before disappearing into the void. Alien ships fired wildly, but the humans were always one step ahead. Every engagement was precise, every movement calculated, every shot measured. This was not just war. It was a demonstration. The galaxy had assumed humans were fragile. Now, humans were showing them the cost of that assumption. The motherships themselves were a sight no alien had ever seen before. They floated above the system's suns, immense and gleaming, their shadows stretching across entire planets. The energy flowing from their engines made the stars themselves seem dimmer, their brilliance swallowed by the sheer mass and power of the human giants. Alien commanders stared at the displays, unable to comprehend the scale. This cannot be real," one whispered. "They are not fragile. They are impossible." Inside the Aurora's edge, Leora felt the familiar hum of power beneath her feet. Every human aboard felt it too, the pulse of a species that had waited for centuries to rise, that had trained, built, and sacrificed to reach this very moment. "We are not fragile," Leora said softly, almost to herself. "We are the storm, and they will remember us." Her voice carried across the bridge, a quiet declaration that resonated with every officer, every crew member, and every soldier aboard. The alien fleets tried to form a wall, a desperate attempt to stop humanity before it reached the heart of their systems. But the humans moved with unparalleled coordination. Fighters weaved in and out of enemy lines, destroyers struck at command ships, and the motherships unleashed controlled waves of energy that disabled entire formations without unnecessary destruction. Humanity was not here to annihilate indiscriminately. Humanity was here to prove a point. The quiet ones were never weak. In the Vrylan capital, panic had begun to take hold. Commanders shouted orders, but their fleets moved like frightened animals, reacting instead of acting. Reports of disabled ships, destroyed patrols, and unstoppable human movements filled the communication networks. The galaxy had always assumed that strength was measured in numbers or size. Humans were proving that strategy, intelligence, and unity were far more powerful than mere force. On the observation deck of the Aurora's edge, Leora gazed at the enemy lines with a mixture of pride and determination. Every move of the fleet, every strike against the aliens was a message. Humanity had waited, and now humanity had arrived. The galaxy had assumed that patience was weakness. Humans had shown that patience was the most dangerous weapon of all. Despite the chaos, the galaxy had always believed it understood humans. They were fragile, weak, and insignificant. That belief had lasted for centuries, but now it was beginning to crumble. Across the stars, in the capitals and command centers of alien empires, fear was spreading like wildfire. The first human fleet had not only entered alien space, it had dominated it with precision, intelligence, and power. And the galaxy could not hide from the truth any longer. The Vrylan Empire, one of the most powerful in the outer sectors, felt the first pangs of panic. Entire fleets scrambled to intercept the advancing human forces, but even as they moved, reports came in that smaller human destroyers had already disabled key patrols, disabled energy grids, and left messages of warning in place of destruction. Humanity had learned the delicate art of demonstrating power without unnecessary cruelty. The galaxy could see it now. Humans were unstoppable, not just in force, but in mind. In one distant colony, Admiral Trelka stared at the tactical displays, antennae trembling. How? How can a species so small hold such power? He muttered to his officers. They've prepared for centuries. They've learned every weakness, anticipated every move. This is not war, it is a revelation. His officers exchanged glances, a mixture of fear and disbelief spreading among them. The galaxy had always assumed that strength was measured in numbers or weapons. Humans were proving a different kind of strength: patience, intelligence, unity, and courage. Aboard the Aurora's Edge, Captain Leora Kane observed the spread of fear across enemy networks. Ships moved with hesitation where they had once moved with confidence. Fleets that had never known defeat paused, unsure of what humans were capable of. Leora's eyes reflected the swirling map of enemy positions, each flicker of movement revealing hesitation, confusion, and fear. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The galaxy will remember this moment forever." On Earth, people remained largely unaware of the chaos unfolding among the stars. Cities continued their daily rhythm, children laughed in playgrounds, and the oceans shimmered under sunlight. Yet every human aboard the fleet carried the weight of centuries: the mockery, the insults, the disbelief of countless alien species. Every engineer, soldier, and commander felt the pride of representing a species that had long been underestimated. Humanity had been silent for too long, and now it was time to be heard. Reports of human efficiency and strategy spread rapidly across alien territories. Small patrols that had been dispatched to scout human movements were intercepted and neutralized with surgical precision. Entire fleets witnessed human coordination that was almost impossible to counter. Fighters dodged the heaviest lasers, destroyers struck vital points without leaving room for retaliation, and motherships moved like planets themselves, their massive energy fields casting darkness across entire systems. For the first time, aliens realized that Earth's silence had been intentional, deliberate, and deadly. Across the galaxy, conversations shifted from disbelief to fear. "Perhaps we were wrong," said one alien diplomat to trembling colleagues. "We underestimated them. We should have prepared." Across other empires, whispers grew into warnings, and warnings into orders to retreat or negotiate. The humans had done what no species before them had done. They had commanded attention without violence, fear without chaos. Even as fear spread, humanity remained disciplined. Leora Kane walked across the bridge, observing every officer, every soldier, every technician at their post. Their eyes were focused, their movements precise, their resolve unshakable. Humanity was not acting recklessly. Every strike, every maneuver, every display of power had a purpose. They were proving that humans were not fragile, not weak, not to be dismissed. They were here to be respected. Alien commanders realized too late that mocking Earth had been a mistake. They had assumed silence meant fragility, patience meant weakness. They had never considered that humans could be intelligent, disciplined, patient, and unstoppable. And now, they were paying the price. Reports poured in of alien fleets hesitating. In the face of human formation, entire colonies freezing as signals of the human fleet's movement reached their communication networks. Fear had replaced mockery and respect, though grudging began to seep in. In the observation room of the Aurora's Edge, Leora gazed at the systems before them. The fleet's massive shadow stretched across planets below, a symbol of strength and unity that no alien could ignore. Every human aboard felt it. the knowledge that they had rewritten the rules of the galaxy, that their patience, preparation, and courage had shattered centuries of doubt. "We are not fragile," Leora whispered. "We are not small, and the galaxy will never forget this day." The humans did not destroy indiscriminately. They demonstrated power where needed, disabled systems where possible, and left clear messages for those willing to surrender. The display of strength alone was enough. Across alien space, leaders began to negotiate, fleets paused, and colonies reconsidered their defenses. Humanity's arrival was not just physical, it was psychological. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Patience, unity, and preparation can turn even the smallest species into an unstoppable force. And so, as the fleet moved deeper into alien territory, the spread of fear became absolute. What had begun as disbelief turned into awe. What had been laughter became silence. Humanity had entered the galaxy not merely as a participant, but as a power no empire could ignore. The stars themselves seemed to pulse under the weight of this new reality, as if the universe recognized that a species long underestimated had finally awakened. For Captain Leora Kane, the mission was only beginning. The fear spreading across the galaxy was proof that humanity's patience had been worth it, that the centuries of preparation had succeeded. And as the motherships moved closer to the heart of enemy space, Leora allowed herself a moment of pride and hope. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was no longer small. Humanity had begun its roar. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The galaxy had begun to understand the truth. Humans were not fragile. They were patient, clever, and unstoppable. Across alien empires, fleets gathered in desperation. They tried to resist, to form walls of ships and weapons that could hold humanity back. But the humans were not just strong. They were prepared. Every move had been calculated, every formation practiced, every strategy anticipated. Humanity did not panic. Humanity did not falter. Humanity advanced. Captain Leora Kane stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, her eyes fixed on the growing alien armada ahead. Millions of ships filled the void of space, stretching across the system like a living wall. They had come to stop humanity, to show Earth that it was nothing. But they had underestimated centuries of planning, innovation, and courage. Leora's hands rested on the railing, feeling the hum of energy beneath her feet, the heartbeat of a species that had waited for this moment for centuries. The human fleet moved forward like a single organism. Motherships glided through the void, their shields glowing, their engines pulsing with power. Smaller fighters darted around them, striking in perfect coordination. Destroyers aimed at vulnerable enemy ships, disabling their systems without unnecessary destruction. Every strike, every maneuver, every calculated move was a message. Humans had arrived, and they would not be ignored. In the alien command centers, panic spread. Generals shouted orders, fleets moved frantically, and commanders realized they were facing a species far beyond their comprehension. "They are not just strong, they are unstoppable," one alien cried, antennae quivering. "They have anticipated everything. Every tactic we use is countered before we can act." Across the galaxy, fear gripped every empire that had ever dismissed Earth as small and insignificant. The first real clash began at the edge of the Vrylan capital system. Human destroyers struck first, weaving through enemy formations with lightning speed. Alien cruisers fired blindly, but the humans were already gone, leaving only disabled vessels and warnings in their wake. Fighters engaged in precise dogfights, outmaneuvering the most advanced alien pilots. Humanity did not rely solely on brute force. They relied on intelligence, unity, and courage. Each engagement left the enemy questioning everything they thought they knew about this quiet, underestimated species. The motherships themselves were the true terror. They positioned themselves above the system's suns, casting shadows that stretched across planets below. Energy weapons glowed along their massive hulls, capable of shattering entire fleets or defending entire systems. The alien armada hesitated, sensing the overwhelming power before them. For the first time, the galaxy felt the weight of human potential. The humans were not just fighting, they were demonstrating the impossible. On the bridge of the Aurora's edge, Leora issued calm, measured commands. Focus on coordination. Disable first, strike second, protect each other. Humanity fights with purpose, not chaos. Every officer nodded. Every soldier understood. This was not just a battle, it was history in motion. Every action mattered, every decision carried the weight of centuries. Humanity was not simply defending itself. Humanity was proving its worth to the galaxy, rewriting the rules of respect and fear. The battle raged across the stars. Explosions lit up the darkness, weapons fired with precision, and fleets moved in a deadly ballet of strategy and strength. Human ships disabled sea. The battle had ended, but the echoes of humanity's arrival resounded across the galaxy. Alien fleets, once arrogant and confident, now moved with hesitation. Colonies that had mocked Earth in whispers now watched in awe, unsure how to respond. To a species they had long underestimated. Humanity had proven that patience, intelligence, and unity could transform the seemingly weak into the unstoppable. Aboard the Aurora's edge, Captain Leora Kane stood on the observation deck, her eyes sweeping over the remnants of the alien fleets retreating toward their systems. The stars were dotted with sparks of fading energy, the scars of engagement still visible. But despite the destruction, Leora's heart felt calm. Humanity had not sought needless death or chaos. They had fought with precision, showing power without cruelty. That balance, that discipline, was what made humans different. That was why the galaxy would now respect them. The fleet moved slowly through the conquered space, disabling only the necessary systems to secure peace. Communication channels opened cautiously. Alien leaders sent messages of surrender, negotiation, and, unexpectedly, respect. "We underestimated you," one message read. "Your species is stronger than any we imagined. We wish to make peace." The words were short, almost hesitant, but they carried weight. The galaxy was beginning to realize that silence had been humanity's greatest weapon. In the command room of the Aurora's edge, officers worked tirelessly to translate and respond. Every message from alien civilizations was a mixture of awe and caution. Humanity had not only fought a physical battle, they had reshaped the psychology of an entire galaxy. The fear that had once spread like wildfire was slowly transforming into respect. For centuries, humans had been dismissed. Now they were listened to. Leora's eyes softened as she thought about Earth, quiet and peaceful below. The planet had waited patiently for this moment, hidden while the galaxy mocked it, teaching humans the value of observation, planning, and endurance. Every engineer, soldier, and scientist had contributed to this victory. Every human had played a part in proving that their species was not fragile. Humanity had waited silently, prepared tirelessly, and now the galaxy had no choice but to recognize their strength. The first wave of negotiations began in earnest. Alien ambassadors arrived aboard the motherships, their fear now tempered with curiosity and respect. They watched the humans move with discipline, observed their coordination, and saw the pride in every eye. They realized that humans were not only strong in power, but also wise in restraint. The species that had once been dismissed as weak now carried the authority to demand attention. In the distant colonies, news spread quickly. Humans had arrived, fought, and triumphed. Tales of courage, discipline, and intelligence became the new stories whispered across systems. Children no longer. imagined humans as fragile beings. They imagined them as giants of strategy, patience, and courage. The galaxy's perception had shifted, and the quiet strength of humanity became a symbol of hope and power. Leora walked across the observation deck, reflecting on the journey that had brought humanity here. Centuries of preparation, sacrifices, in silence, and endless training had culminated in this moment. The galaxy had doubted humans for far too long, and now humans were finally recognized as equals, as a force to be reckoned with. Pride filled her heart, not for conquest, but for the endurance, courage, and unity of her species. In the following days, humans moved systematically through alien systems. They repaired the damage done during the engagements, restored communication, networks, and offered guidance for peaceful rebuilding. This was not a conquering force, it was a teaching force, demonstrating that strength was not only about power, but also about responsibility. Humanity's reputation grew not only as warriors, but as wise leaders. Respect replaced fear, and admiration began to take root where once there had been ridicule. The fleet's communication officer reported incoming messages from distant empires seeking alliances. Captain, multiple empires are requesting diplomatic talks. They want guidance, not war, he said, voice tinged with disbelief. Leora nodded, her face calm but proud. Prepare the responses. Humanity offers respect to those who show respect. We fight to protect, not to dominate. Let the galaxy see who we truly are. As the motherships moved toward the outer systems, humans looked out into the stars with new understanding. The galaxy was no longer a distant, indifferent space. It was a place of potential allies, of civilizations that could learn from humanity's example, and of species that would now treat Earth with the respect it had long deserved. The roar of humanity had not been a shout of anger. It had been the sound of awakening, the sound of a species claiming its rightful place in the cosmos. And as Leora gazed at the endless stars, she felt a deep, quiet satisfaction. Humanity had endured the mockery of centuries, faced the disbelief of empires, and risen as a force of courage, intelligence, and unity. The galaxy had learned to fear them, but more importantly, the galaxy had begun to respect them. The silence of Earth had ended. The patience of humanity had been rewarded. And as the fleet sailed through the cosmos, one truth was clear to every human aboard. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity awoke. The galaxy was quiet now, but it was a quiet born of respect, not ignorance. Systems that had once mocked Earth now whispered its name with reverence. Colonies that had feared humanity now sought alliances, guidance, and friendship. Humanity had not only fought, they had awakened the galaxy to a new truth. Strength does not only come from numbers or weapons. Strength comes from patience, unity, courage, and heart. Aboard the Aurora's Edge, Captain Leora Kane stood on the observation deck, staring at the stars stretched endlessly before her. The human fleet moved like a living organism, engines humming, shields glowing and weapons at the ready. But the weapons were quiet now, unused except for demonstration. Humanity had shown the galaxy its power, and that was enough. Every system they passed was a reminder. Humans were no longer a species to be dismissed. Leora reflected on the journey. The fleet had traveled from the quiet cities of Earth to the heart of alien empires. They had faced disbelief, mockery, and fear, and turned all of it into triumph. Every officer, soldier, engineer, and pilot aboard had contributed to this victory. Humanity's patience, ingenuity, and courage had carved a place for them among the stars. And the galaxy would never be the same again. In distant systems, alien leaders sent delegations to meet humanity. Some arrived in fleets, others traveled in simple ships. They came not with threats, but with curiosity and respect. They wanted to learn, they wanted to understand, and they wanted to witness the species that had risen silently, then roared with unmatched power and wisdom. Humanity had not conquered with brutality, they had conquered with example. The motherships glided past planets, their massive shadows darkening suns and casting awe across entire worlds. On the decks, humans looked out with pride, knowing that centuries of effort, sacrifice, and determination had culminated in this moment. The galaxy had assumed silence meant weakness, but humans had taught the universe that silence could hide strength. Patience could create power, and unity could overcome any challenge. In the midst of this triumph, Leora walked through the corridors of the Aurora's edge, greeting officers and crew. Faces glowed with quiet satisfaction, eyes bright with pride. They had waited their whole lives for this, but it was more than victory. It was recognition. Humanity was no longer fragile. Humanity had become a symbol of hope, courage, and endurance for countless worlds. On Earth, news of humanity's triumph began to reach the people below. Families gazed at the night sky, seeing streaks of light as fleets moved through orbit. Children dreamed of stars, as humans had never dreamed before. Cities celebrated silently, knowing that their species had finally claimed its place in the galaxy. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Now they were remembered. The alien. Empires began to rebuild with humanity's guidance. They respected the strength and discipline humans had shown. They had learned that true power came not from domination, but from knowledge, unity, and courage. Humans had not just won battles. They had changed the rules of engagement, teaching the galaxy that even a quiet, underestimated species could rise to greatness. Leora returned to the observation deck, her gaze lingering on the stars. She thought of Earth below, still small and beautiful, and felt the weight of responsibility. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and now it was their duty to lead with wisdom. They had the power to protect, to inspire, and to guide. And every human aboard understood that their actions would echo for generations. The fleet moved onward, past conquered systems and newly allied worlds. Communication channels buzzed with messages of gratitude, curiosity, and respect. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they were not only warriors, but leaders, thinkers, and protectors. Every planet they passed became part of the legacy they were building, a legacy of courage, patience, and honor. In a quiet moment, Leora allowed herself to imagine the future. Humans traveling freely among the stars, alliances formed with distant civilizations, peace maintained by strength and wisdom. The galaxy had once feared them, then respected them. And one day the universe would tell the story of the quiet species that had waited, prepared, and finally roared across the stars. The